Hello, citizens of YouTube. This is the Geeky Nerd here, and today we're going to be talking about the second greatest debate beyond AK versus AR, 5.56 versus 7.62. So before we get into here, guys, I'd like to send a big thank you out to everyone who has subscribed and commented and liked on the previous videos. I really appreciate you guys and love having that conversation with you. And if you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, or subscribing on it if you like the general content we try to put out here. So let's get into it. 7.62 by 39 versus 5.56 by 45, otherwise known as AK versus AR ammo. Right off the bat, for me personally, I prefer AKs. I have nothing wrong with ARs. I enjoy ARs. I own ARs. I shoot ARs. But when it comes down to the brass tacks of it, I much rather prefer an AK. And that really honestly comes down to the ammo. For one, on average, your AK ammo is going to be about half the cost of AR ammo. 5.56 is going to be double the cost of 7.62. Just how it is. One of those reasons why for that, of course, is most AK ammo you find out there is going to be steel cased, which means it's not reloadable. If you're not a reloader and don't have any interest in reloading, then I don't see why not you wouldn't get steel cased everything. There's really no point. ARs, though, on average, they're going to be brass. You can find steel case. However, some ARs are finicky about it. As of currently, all ARs will eat steel case ammunition perfectly fine, unless it's a super high-end, crazy, high-tolerance build, or unless it's an older rifle. But modern sporting rifles of the day can accept steel case 5.56 perfectly fine. So that's more of a general ammunition. If you go into a store, you're going to find brass 5.56. If you go into a store, you're going to find steel case 7.62. Just how it is. Now, the second thing to consider with these rounds in the verses is their strengths and their weaknesses and where they get them from. For the 5.56, it's a 22 caliber round. I know it says 5.56, but it's actually a 22 caliber projectile. With that, the AR gets all of its potential, all of its energy, all of its lethality from its speed. 5.56 rounds go around 3,000 feet per second, 2,800, 3,000, depending on what kind of load you're using. But they go at pretty fast. They're zipping along there pretty quickly. And that's actually where they get all the lethality from, because it is a small projectile. It's able to penetrate soft barriers pretty easily because it can just zip right through it. Also, if it does hit any kind of soft bipedal animals, then it once it hits that soft tissue, it will start to tumble, and that's kind of where it creates a bit of its devastating effect. It's not dumping a lot of energy. It's more just causing a whole bunch of cavitation. Actually, let me phrase that. It is dumping energy, but it's not delivering it through weight. It's delivering it through speed, velocity. And that's where the 22 gets its strength. If you start getting higher grain bullets, like 72 grain or some crazy 90 grain, projectile, it starts losing a lot of its effectiveness because it starts dropping down in velocity. Once you get to around 2,400, 2,300, 2,200 feet per second, like once you start getting down in the low 2,000s, then the round starts losing a lot of its potential. So that's one thing about the 5.56. 7.62. Of course, isn't without its weaknesses. Also, the 5.56, essentially, its effective range is 500 yards and in. Some people will say, like Marines, things like that, will say that it's 300 yards and in. You can really push it to about 5, and then it starts getting a little wishy-washy for the simple fact the wind is the biggest contributing factor. Because it is a light round, the wind can push it around a lot easier. That's where you start getting deviation in your shots. Now, 7.62, it doesn't have that problem. It is a 30 caliber round, so it's a lot bigger of a round, a lot heavier of a round, and as you see, it's a bit more stout. Comparing the two apples to apples here, you can really see how they kind of match up there. Now, the AK round is zooming along there, 2,300. Around 2,300 feet per second, if I'm not mistaken here. Haven't looked at any AK charts in a good bit, because that's one thing about this round is you're not going to get as great of a distance. AKs will shoot about 300 yards in. You can push them farther, They are possible to, but you're going to have to get really specialized bullets, really tight tolerances, and really a competition marksman rifle to be able to achieve that. But your standard, steel case ammunition isn't likely going to work. Not saying it can't, because the shooter is the most important thing. Sorry, studio lights going weird here. But with that, you're going to have an effective range of about 300 yards in. Now, the AK, like I said, it gets its potential from its weight. This bullet is going at 123, it weighs in at 123 grains. You can go heavier rounds, but 123, 124, 122 is pretty much where the AK lives in the weight ranges. Blah. Getting tongue-tied here. Studio lights are going out, getting tongue-tied. It's just a crazy day. But it's getting its potential, its lethality from its weight, because it does have a heavier projectile. It's carrying that weight downrange. Now, what does that mean? Well, for one, the round is able to penetrate barriers a lot easier without losing stability. Now, I know I just said the 5.56 penetrates barriers, but it penetrates light barriers, nothing heavy, nothing substantial. It's more of like it's just more zipping along there. But if you get any kind of additional resistance to it, other than mainly a soft target or a semi-hard target, if you get like a cinder block, that's going to just obliterate. This will actually keep on holding its weight. Now, it obviously won't go through a cinder block, but you get the point here. To where that is getting its potential from speed, this is getting its potential from weight. And with that weight, you get a few benefits. For one, when it enters a bipedal soft enemy target, it is going to, instead of tumbling on its way around, now some rounds do that, but majority, instead of tumbling, instead of kind of fragmenting and breaking apart, and that's where it gets lethality, this is pretty much just punching through, just having that general force just hit that target and then dump its energy into that target as much as possible with weight going behind it. Now, when you're shooting AKs, because it does have a heavier bullet, it is not going to be affected by wind as much. So when you are shooting, if you are trying to go some kind of crazier ranges, it's not going to have as much deviation, because it's not going to push around like the little old 5.56 there. So one thing to consider. Now, I'm sure it's going to come up when 5.56 versus AK, of course, which one is going to function more reliably. Both AKs and ARs are fully functioning. The old myth of ARs are completely unreliable compared to AKs was kind of a bygone era when ARs were first up and coming. It's not so much the fact anymore. Although I would prefer an AK, I would say an AK is a bit more reliable because it has looser tolerances. There's nothing wrong with an AR. But off of the reliability part here, getting back to the actual ammunition, there are ARs that are hybrids that are chambered in the AK round, which are fantastic, like the KS-47 made by Palmetto State Armory. I love that thing to death. It is the best of both worlds, and it's just an awesome, fantastic rifle. And then you also have AKs like the Arsenal SLR 106 FR, if I'm not mistaken, chambered in 5.56, which is a great thing. However, the platforms they were designed for, they should stick with the platforms they were designed for, not too much cross. You can cross them, but they work best in their original intending platforms. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. That's my general take on 5.56 versus 7.62 here. I prefer the 7.62 again for its benefits that it does offer. I would much rather have a decreased range for less wind drift, also for more energy potential going down range, and less barrier sensitive than a 5.56. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, what you guys prefer, what you guys use. Also, especially if you have a KS-47 and you're watching this video, please let me know, because I feel like I'm the only one who has that wonderful gun. But yeah, I'll leave you guys to it. Hope everyone's having a wonderful, awesome, fantastic day. I'll catch you guys next time. See you guys.